I'll be your host today. We have a great meeting. I think you'll enjoy it very much. To get us started, I'd like to ask for former retired City Judge Darrell White to come and lead us in an opening prayer.
And if any of you would like to feast your eyes, but not your camera, on the Rrnl Bible, it has been signed by every justice of the Supreme Court since 1906. I brought photocopies of the Bible here. I'll be sitting in the back. Let's go to the Lord. Mighty God, what a privilege it is for us to come before you and to return thanks, Lord, for this food, for our fellowship, for this wonderful nation we live in, and all of the rights that really are sourced in you. And thank you for blessing America with a nation that acknowledges in our very declaration that rights come from you. And may we be steadfast to preserve those rights. So now, bless this time we spend together, Lord. Nourish us with the food and fellowship. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing, and if you would, I'd like to ask Scott Wolfong, who is our Secretary of the Republican Party of East Baton Rouge, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
One of these days, he's going to ask me to sing the national anthem. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, you know, we've now been doing these meetings for 14 years this month. About 170 meetings at the Ronald Reagan Newsmaker Luncheon, and of course every month also the Chamber of Commerce of East Baton Rouge, which is sort of a sister organization, I guess, meets on the fourth Tuesday, so 170 meetings there. A lot of great events, a lot of great newsmakers, and it's a privilege to have all of you here today to celebrate our little anniversary that we have. What a moment it is in history. I think as we look back in decades to come, what's happening in the Middle East today will certainly be considered historic and earth-changing. And we have to thank the courage of our President of the United States, Donald Trump, for everything he's done to change the direction of this country and the world. And our prayers are with him, with all the men and women in our armed forces today and our allies around the world, and especially to the people of Iran who have suffered so much and who are now, we pray, on the verge of liberation and freedom for generations to come.
Amen.
Amen. So, we have a great speaker today, our Secretary of State, Nancy Landry. She's doing such a wonderful job, just yeoman's work, plowing every day to keep our elections honest, to take care of all the business filings from all over the country, and of people trying to do business here, and the State Archives, which is something really tremendous, worth visiting. I urge all of you to go take a look at our State Archives. Nancy's a former state representative, former chairman of the Education Committee. She served as the, I think, the Chief Deputy Secretary, or First Assistant Secretary of State for 4 years, and now she's our Secretary of State. She has some things to report in her office. We certainly have these elections this year, which are complicated, and maybe she can bring some understanding to us about what's about to happen in the elections. And also, I know they're getting some new voting machines, trying their best to, and we'd love to know about that and everything else that she would like to tell us. So I'd like to bring up Nancy Landry, our Secretary of State.
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm going to try to run through everything I have to report on quickly, because I understand we have some candidates here who are going to be given the opportunity to speak as well. So this year will be the first election cycle under the new closed party primary system, and I want everyone to know I did not take a position on that legislation. This was the governor and the legislature who wanted to pass this, and as Secretary of State, I just wanted to make sure that I would be able to implement it with integrity, and make sure that we had the resources to implement it with integrity. And the legislature did give us a couple of years to reprogram our system and educate people and educate the clerks of court, the registrars of voters, and our voters in particular, who are the most important ones for us to educate. And so this key focus this year has been to ensure a smooth rollout of our closed party primary elections, which we will be having for the first time on May 16th. And the advertisement that we've been doing, and we've been doing radio, TV, social media, internet ads, sports events ads, and even a direct mail piece to every household, has been the slogan, "Know Before You Go." And it stands for, K means keep your registration current, N is not everyone will vote in every race, O, only the following offices are part of the closed primaries, and that's U.S. House and U.S. Senate, Louisiana Supreme Court, Public Service Commission, and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. And W is where you can find more information, and that's govote.com, G-E-A-U-X, vote.com/CPP. CPP is for closed party primaries. And again, the first primary will be May 16th, and all 5 of those closed party races will have at least one race on the ballot. There's U.S. Senate, U.S. House, there are a couple of Supreme Court races, there's 1 or 2 PSC races, I think 2 maybe, and 1 Bessie race, at least 1 Bessie race. The deadline to register or change your party affiliation in person is April 15th, tax day, so remember that. And then to do it online is April 25th, 10 days later. And that's 20 days before the election. That's the deadline to change your registration. So we encourage everyone to check their voter registration, because even though you may have been voting a certain way your entire life, that does not mean that you have officially changed your party registration, and you want to make sure that you are affiliated with the party that you want to be affiliated with, because that will determine which ballot you get. And the voter experience once you enter the voting booth is pretty much the same as it's been in the past. The races that you'll be eligible to vote on will be lit up if you go on election day with the old machines, and those that you're not eligible to vote in will be darkened out. And when there are closed party primary contests in election, Democratic and Republican voters will receive ballots specific to their parties when they show up to vote or when they request their absentee ballot by mail. And voters registered as no party will choose one of 3 ballots. They can either choose to vote in the Democratic primary, the Republican primary, or they can get the no party ballot, which is just no closed party primary races, just the 5 constitutional amendments and any local races or any races that are not closed party primaries. During the early voting period and on election day, if you are a no-party voter, if you are unaffiliated, then you will have to fill out a declaration of ballot choice. And that confirms, and we ask you to sign that, and it confirms which ballot you are selecting to vote on, whether it's Republican or Democrat or no party. And it does not change your party affiliation when you sign that declaration form. It is just declaring what you select to vote on in the primary. But it does determine which ballot you will get in the runoff if there is a primary runoff. Because in June, we will have primary runoffs if necessary. So in the primary elections, you have to get 50% plus 1 to win, to advance out of the primary. And if nobody gets 50%, then the 2 highest voters will have a runoff in June, the primary runoff. And then in the fall, in November, whoever wins the primary, so you'll have 1 Democrat and 1 Republican, and then in the November election, the other candidates, any Green Party, Libertarian, or no party candidates would be on the ballot then. And anybody can vote for whoever they want in that election, but it's plurality wins in the closed party primaries. It's whoever gets the most votes, even if they don't get 50%. And that's a change from the past as well, but that's not until November. I encourage all of you to go to govote.com or to get the GoVote mobile app and check your party affiliation. We don't want you to be surprised. We want you to know before you go. So please do that. And that's the main message we've been trying to get out. Please tell your friends. We also have videos on our website. We have 5 educational videos that explain the closed party primary process. And we've been asking people to use those to educate voters and use them in their clubs and organizations to get their membership aware of these important changes coming up. Now, while all this has been going on, we've also continued to move through the procurement process for our next voting system. And this is now, as you know, a 4-year process. I think I've spoken to you all about this in the past. It used to be a 2-year process, and in 2021, the time frame was doubled to a 4-year process. So that's why we're still using the old machines. And it's still safe and secure machine, but it's over 35 years old, and we can't get replacement parts for those machines anymore. So when one breaks, we have to cannibalize other machines to get the parts. It's just reached the end of its life cycle, and it's time for us to get a new system. And voters have consistently indicated to us that they want a system that combines the speed of modern technology with the security of a voter verifiable paper ballot. And that's what's required by state law now, that you have to have a paper ballot as part of the new system. And every modern system has this. So this will allow voters to confirm that the ballot marking device did register their votes the way that they voted, and they will confirm that before then putting it into a scanner for it to be tabulated. The new system will also allow Louisiana to conduct risk-limiting audits after each and every election, which risk-limiting audits are the gold standard in verifying election results. So, and we also, as part of the law, will have an option to hand mark a ballot. If you want to hand mark a ballot, you will have that option as well. So this past year in 2025, we created state standards, which the new law required us to do it following the APA procedure, and we did that. And then we then invited vendors to have their equipment or their systems certified under these new standards, as well as under the federal standards. And so they came in, we had open meetings at the old governor's mansion, and 6 vendors came in, and all 6 ended up getting certified. So we have 6 certified vendors that are eligible to bid on the new system. And our goal this year now is to have a vendor selected by the end of the year so we can begin implementation as soon as possible. It's going to be a big effort to train everybody on the new equipment. Again, the same people, the clerks, the registrars, the commissioners, and of course, most importantly, the voters. And so, so we're hoping that'll happen by the end of this year so we can start implementing next year. It will be a phased-in implementation, so we're not going to roll it out 100% to every parish in the first year. We start with a small, medium, and large parish, and then expand out from there. Woody, how am I doing for time? Okay? Okay. Okay, and then we have, just wanted to give y'all an update on total registration numbers and then talk a little bit about the bills I'm going to have this session to improve election integrity. So total registered voters in Louisiana now is 2,964,056. Democrats are 1,074,359. Republicans are 1,053,975. So Republicans are within 20,000 now of the Democrats.
And what about no party?
No party or other parties. So no we lumped them together. No parties and Green and Libertarian and any other party. 835,722. So that's, we update those numbers and post them. I think they're posted on our website every month. But that's our latest numbers. So this year, you know, we are ranked number 4 in the nation now in election integrity. When I took office, we were ranked number 9. And I want us to be number 1 in the nation. And I think we will be once we get a new system. But we moved from 9 to 4 because the legislature has passed a series of bills that we asked them to carry to move us up and to make our elections safer and secure. And this year, we're really focused on closed party primaries and implementing that, so we don't have a big package of bills. But we do have 3 bills that I want to just mention real briefly. We have House Bill 691 by Representative Boyer, which will require the Secretary of State's office to run the voter roll list through the SAVE data, which is the systematic alien verification for entitlement data. And we already voluntarily do this. We were the first state to run our data through that database. So that's how we found out that we had 403 non-citizens on our voting rolls, and we're able to send those voters a challenge card asking them to come in and prove that they were citizens. Not one of them did, and so those 403 were removed from our rolls. And so we plan to run the list through regularly, and certainly every new registrant where we run through it, but we also wanted to codify it. So I'm doing it voluntarily, but we want any future Secretaries of State to do that as well. So this bill would just codify that. The second bill is House Bill 547 by Representative Polly Thomas, and this would make it against the law to photograph, record, or reproduce voter registration information in the precinct register. So we have people who come in and they want to take pictures of the precinct register and then go use that information to call voters, and it's a violation of their privacy, and it also they have PII on that. We have to make sure that the personal identifiable information is protected. It is available through a public records request, but when you do it as a public records request, we have the opportunity to redact it. And so we just don't want people taking pictures of that and using that to harass voters. Senate Bill 319 by Senator Presley is the signature piece of our package this year, and it would provide specific ways to positively identify a voter who comes to vote. It also adds additional ways for individuals who might not have their ID to verify their identity so they can vote. So instead of, the current law says that you can use a generally recognized picture ID with a signature, and we wanted to change that and tighten it up a bit and just use state-issued or IDs that require you to verify your identity to get the ID. So like driver's license, passport, things like that. We did it in a way that you're probably familiar with, where you have a primary list of documents that you can use and you only need 1 from the primary list, or you can have 2 from the secondary list. And that way, we won't have people coming in and trying to use a Costco ID to vote and things like that. It will have to be a state-issued ID, a passport, something on that first list, or 2 things from the other list, which will help us to identify who that person is. And instead of just having them sign an affidavit and swearing that they are who they are, they will actually have to present something to prove their identity. And that's going to be a kind of a big change in the law. And we think it's important and it's necessary in order that we know who's voting, and we're not going to let people just sign an affidavit anymore and be allowed to vote. Okay, so those are the 3 main bills, and again, we're focusing on a closed party primary, so we're going to go to questions.
I want a question before I wanted to ask you for a while. Okay. If somebody in the June runoff, if there's, say, one person wins and the other person finishes second, if subsequent to that, the person who wins the primary dies, leaves office, withdraws, does the second place finisher become the nominee and go on the ballot in November?
Yes, but if they're already in the runoff, in the primary runoff, then one of them dies.
I'm saying, so Rick Eccles defeats Mike Eccles, and Rick wins the Powerball, right? And says, forget Congress, I'm out. He leaves the race. Does Mike Eccles become the nominee and go on the fall ballot?
I want to win the Powerball.
You can't win it if you're not in it, all right?
We do have provisions for death of a candidate in there. And
no one has answered that question.
Don't quote me on it, but I think if you're already past the first primary and you're in the runoff and one dies, the other one would become the nominee, I think.
I'll get you that.
We'll find out for sure, but there is a provision that if that one dies, then the executive committee of the party would appoint someone to be in the general in the fall.
Okay.
If your
Well, what about,
winner
okay, then
dies.
with that, so for instance, the Supreme Court race, there's only two, there is no Democrat, there is no party. Whoever wins the primary on May 16th, winner they declared elected and eligible to take office, because that's a vacancy.
So that's that's a very technical question. If it is a vacant office and they are declared the winner and the time delays have passed for contesting the election, then they can be sworn in and get their commission and start right away. But if they're running for a term that ends in December,
Right.
they would have to wait until that current elected person finishes their term, and then they would not take office until that term starts. Does that make sense?
Okay.
That's usually how it works. So if you're running for a vacant position, you get to take office right away.
The new law, though, says that the person is declared elected by the people at the close of the polls on election day, which would be November 3rd. That's why I was curious about
So
it.
there's a 9-day period when you have a time period where someone can contest the election, and we have to wait for that time period to run. And if there is an election contest suit, we have to then wait for the outcome of that election contest
Okay,
suit.
more questions?
Okay.
Christie has a question.
Okay.
Thanks, Penny. Secretary Landry, Donald Trump has made it crystal clear in his personal addresses to Jeff Landry and to the nation that he does not want voting machines. He says paper ballots, hand-marked secure, counted day of election with the results delivered election night. Why is Louisiana dead set on continuing down the path of voting machines?
The polls that we've seen show that voters in Louisiana want a combination.
You can't produce those
Do you want me to
polls.
answer, Christie, or
I
not?
know the answer. You've already answered it.
Well, then why are you asking me?
Well, because you can't produce the polls.
Okay, I'm gonna give my answer for everybody
Here's what
else.
we're gonna do. Ask your question, and she'll answer. So you ask the
Yeah.
question.
Okay.
Go ahead and answer.
So there has been, a question about whether the president wants no machines or whether he wants paper. And we will have paper. So I don't think that he's ever said, I don't want any machines. I think he wants a system with paper. Everybody wants a system with paper. We have wanted a system with paper for many years, going on 10 years now. And the only reason we don't have one now is because in 2021, the length of time it takes to get a new system doubled because of the efforts of your group lobbying the legislature to make the longer time period. And so we don't have paper yet because of that. We're going through all the loops, jumping through all the hoops to get that procurement underway. And we want a system that provides checks and balances both ways. We want equipment to check the tabulation of the paper ballots. We want paper ballots to check the tabulation of the equipment. We think that's the best of both worlds. One provides a check and balance on the other. And you think you want everybody to hand count, but when we're sitting there waiting and it's been a week and a half and Orleans Parish is still hand counting their ballots, I think y'all would be the first people to line up and say, why is this happening? Why don't we have the results yet? We want our results on election night like we're used to getting.
Nancy,
No,
we do
Christie,
have
no, wait,
paper
wait a
ballots, the
second.
military.
No, you're not
You didn't ask your question.
Christie, if you have a follow-up question.
I did, because Secretary Landry has not seemed to have heard Donald Trump multiple times say a hand-marked secure paper ballot, no machines. He even told Jeff Landry that machines, in the Hyundai steel mill announcement, he turned to Jeff Landry, the announcement was not about election integrity, but Donald Trump made it about election integrity, turned to Jeff Landry on his left-hand side and said, paper ballots will cost 8% of what machines do.
That's not true, because the ongoing
It's on
cost
video.
of hand-marked, hand-counting paper ballots is way more. It's an ongoing expense that happens every year. It requires almost double the number of commissioners that we would have. And so that is more expensive than having machines tabulate your results.
Okay,
So
last question.
Nancy, I asked you this question last year and you didn't have an answer. Hopefully you'll have one today. Louisiana is one of 5 states that legislated paper ballots for military and overseas. When those ballots first came out, at the top of the ballots, it said, copyright Dominion voting systems.
And I told you last time I wasn't the Secretary of State when that happened. That is not on there anymore.
It is not. Thank you. That is my question.
We program the ballots. No one else but the Secretary of State's employees program our ballots and program our machines. And so we do not allow anyone to do the maintenance on our machines or to program our machines. We do that. And so I don't know, I've never seen what you're talking about, and I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, we have time for one.
We don't do that anymore, so
Representative
it's
Shirley
kind
Bowler.
of.
We do have paper ballots
Okay,
for
let's go to the
military.
next one, Shirley.
I'm kind of changing the subject a little. Will there be a master list created that we would be able to obtain by a public records request of all no-party voters who choose the Democrat or Republican
In
Party?
between the,
Yes.
we are going to have that, it is a public record, and you can get it with a public records request after the primary. And
Separated
before the,
by declarations of
primary
Republican
runoff.
or declaration of Democrat.
So it'd be after the primary. It will take us several days to get that information and create that list, but we have been asked that question or not, yes, so it is a public record request.
Thank you.
Sure, so, you know, we're fourth in the nation in election integrity, and we are that way because of what I call the 4 Ps of election integrity. It's not just about the equipment. It's about the people, the policies, the procedures, and the physical protection of the equipment, including the fact that it's never ever connected to the internet. Only our people ever touch the machines, the first P. The policies and procedures that my office and the legislature has passed to make sure that there's no ballot harvesting, that we have tight controls over absentee ballots. Those things all work together to make our elections safe. It's not just about the equipment. And we think that the equipment that's out there is safe and secure. You're going to be able to verify your ballot and will see with your own eyes that it is recording what you voted and then put it in a scanner to scan. And so we think it's the best of both worlds. We'll still get our results on election night, and it's safe and secure, and it's the best way to go. Thank you.
Secretary of State, all the good work you're doing and for being here today. We're very grateful for what you do. And for your staff, thank you for coming today as well. Well, we have an important election coming up in the 5th Congressional District. Most of us here not too happy with these districts, but it is what it is for this election, and we're going to try to make the best of it. We have some outstanding candidates running, and one of them has a committee meeting at the Capitol at 1 o'clock, so we're going to ask him to go first, and that's Senator Rick Edmonds. I think Rick is well known to almost everyone here. He's represented us in the legislature and the House for many years. Now in the Senate, he's a pastor. He is an outstanding spokesman for all conservative issues and family values. And we are just delighted. Thank you for representing us, Rick, and for being here today. We wish you well. In this, we're going to ask you to take 7 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to be serious with you. I'm very competitive, and I want to win this race, but Scott's got me a little nervous. You know, I'm willing to die for my country, but I don't know if I'm willing to die for the race. I mean, I'm not certain of that. You know, that death and taxes thing got serious there with Scott. So thank you all so much for having me this afternoon, and I am headed to a committee meeting. In fact, one I think that you want me to be at. If you want to know what kind of congressman that you will elect in Rick Edmonds, you want to know what kind of fighter, and oh, by the way, this is my 11th year in the legislature, and in fact, I was trained by Nancy over here. She was my chairman of my education committee. I'm not chairman of the Senate Education Committee. But you know, I learned how to fight when I was a young boy. And in learning how to fight, I learned that from my father. And he would say, if you're not willing to fight for the family, if you won't fight for your home and your family, and if you won't fight for the church in your community, you just won't be the guy that I've raised you to be. And so this afternoon I'll be in committee meeting in just a few moments, And I'll be fighting to get a bill passed that now, unfortunately, deals with AI. And in this AI generation, some of that can be good and some of it can be bad. In this particular case, in Lafourche Parish, just a few short months ago, a young lady's head was taken and planted digitally, and then they took that on a nude body, and they just basically almost destroyed her life. You want to know what kind of fighter I'm going to be? I'm going to be the kind of fighter that will stand up for a teenage girl and to make certain that her life is not spoiled and her family's life is not spoiled. I want to tell you, not only is that enough, but this afternoon I'll have a second bill that we'll be moving. And we're going to move this bill. Because if you remember, just a few short months ago, we had people storm one of our churches in the north part of America. And they went in to destroy and to obstruct those people from their worship in their church service. And I want you to know, we will not tolerate that kind of action in the state of Louisiana. I'll be passing that bill that will not allow people to become a crime to storm inside our churches and to obstruct that kind of thing. You want to know what kind of fighter I'll be? It goes back almost 11 years. Because when I knocked on the doors 11 years ago, here's what I heard. Please don't raise my taxes. Please don't raise my taxes. Please don't raise my taxes. And so when I was elected, unfortunately, I was thrown into an administration that couldn't find a tax they didn't love. They loved every one of them. So my first chairmanship was the chairman of the group of no. Because I voted against every tax increase. You want to know what a conservative principle is? It's when you give money back to the taxpayer instead of taking money out of the taxpayer's pocket. We've got enough money. We just have to figure out how to spend it better. And I've been about that for 11 straight years, and I'm still about that. I am still about making certain that the hard-working people of the state of Louisiana can keep their tax dollars in their families, in their households, with their children, with our grandchildren, to make certain that they can have a great American dream. Because I was taught that as a kid. I was taught by my parents that you can be and will be. Anything that God allows you to be, you can be it in this particular country. You know what? I believe that. And I believed that then, and I believe that now. So you want to send somebody to fight for District 5, I'm going to tell you what, you want to elect Rick Edmonds, because I will fight. You want somebody to stand with the president? I will fight. You want somebody to stand with Mike Johnson? I will fight. He was a deacon in my church for 10 years. And I know what a godly man he is. I'm going to Washington to hold his arms up. You know why? Because he's probably got one of the hardest jobs in America. Somebody can't bail out. You don't need a Republican that will bail out or will come out on the short end or worried about what might be in a poll or what might be in an opinion area. Let me just tell you something. If God is for us, who can be against us? That's the kind of fighter I want to be for you. But I want to also tell you that when it comes to this district, I know this district. I love this district. I just left our finance committee meeting, and I want you to know, in infrastructure, I've been able to provide or help provide more dollars than anybody has in almost a generation. We stood up for $450 million of Garvey bonds back in the day when I was in the House. And you know what? That was the lion's shares of dollars. And what you see on I-10, you may not like it all, and you may not be shut down, but what you see at College Drive and all those improvements, that was because of that money that we were able to gain back in just several years ago and put it. We did that for Ruston. We did that for New Orleans. We took those dollars and put those projects on the ground. Today I just left with DOTD. We've got a new guy leading it, and I watched project after project that has been completed and will be completed. Hundreds of bridges and millions of dollars that were taken and investing in this district. I asked this question that some of you will be interested in. What are we going to do about I-12 next? Because, I mean, it is a problem, and many people are worried about their kids and having a car wreck. So guess what? We are ready right now, and we'll have a plan in place by the end of this year that we can present to the public that will start the next section of highway movement right here in this parish and right here in the area of our district that needs those dollars so desperately. You want to know what you will get out of Rick Edmonds? You'll get a fighter that will not apologize or back up when something needs to be done for District 5. I will do it. I'll make certain that it gets done. And let me just tell you, when you got a couple of ways to do this. Some leaders like to go in a room and pull the pin and throw a grenade in the middle of it. Well, I work with some of those. And you know what they do? They blow stuff up. That's all they do. They blow stuff up. But they don't fix anything. Well, I'm not that guy. I'm going to tell you the guy that I am. You remember when we had a gender problem? And we were worried about boys being in the girls' locker rooms. Most of us were offended by that. I got granddaughters. Anybody join with me? A little offended by girls and boys being like, anybody got a problem with that? I had a problem with that. So we voted for that bill, but our governor at that time, he vetoed that bill. Now what you don't know is it took a fighter in the speaker's office in that day. It just so happened. I was invited with 10 guys in that room that day. That bill was not going to make it in the docket. We were going to lose a vote in the Senate. We had about 4 hours to get that bill passed. And somebody wanted to take that bill, what most of you don't know, what most of you will never know, behind the scenes, it takes a fighter. You have to have somebody that's not taking a grenade, but will come in with solutions and make sure we get the job done. So you know what I did that day? I pleaded with those folks to say, we have to get this bill heard in the top 4 bills. They said no. We stayed another hour and said, we've got to get this bill in the top 4 or 5. We must get this done. We're going to lose a vote. They said no. We came back to the next meeting. They said, well, what are you going to do this time? We've got to get it in the top 4 or 5. And they said, all right, we'll go with you. We'll get it in the top 4 or 5. And what you know now is we overturned the governor's veto because we got just enough votes to make certain that boys don't go into girls' locker rooms to dress with our children. And let me tell you why that happened. Because a fighter has to stand up for what they believe in, what their district believes in. I know you, this district. I love this district. And I want you to know, no one will outwork me. If you'll send me to Washington, I'll be the fighter that you expect me to be. You know, several years ago, I made one of the most important decisions of my life. And 2 of those I want to share with you, and I'll be out. Anytime a guy says, and I'm closing, it usually means another 15 minutes, but I'm not going to do that. The first decision I made when I was a 10-year-old boy has changed my life. I remembered a vacation Bible school service. At that time, what you may know as Bob Anderson was the pastor of Parkview Baptist Church. He was my pastor at Ford Park Baptist Church, and he got up in his whispering voice, and he said, every boy and girl needs to come to know Jesus. So when I was 10 years old, I gave my heart to Jesus Christ. I haven't lived perfect since, but that one decision has shaped my entire life. You see, I'm a fighter, but I'm a Christian fighter. I believe that everything I do, I'm a Christian conservative. Everything I do is based on what I believe that God would have me to do for you in this district. The second most important decision I probably ever made in my life was I married my childhood sweetheart. She's not here with me today, but for 52 years, I've been married to that same girl. I saw her in a youth choir room when she walked in. I turned to the shortstop on my baseball team. His name was Kenny Joyner. I turned to Kenny, I elbowed him. I said, you see that girl right there? And he said, yep. Because she was a looker. I said, I'm going to get that girl. And I got that girl, and I've kept that girl for 52 years, and I'm still in love with her. So let me just tell you what this fighter will do for you. As your next congressman, I will love my Lord, I will love my family, and I will love this district, and I don't have to promise again, but I love America. And I will fight for the principles of the godly values that you and I believe, that while others would steal the soul of America, some of us will fight for the soul of America. When it comes to marriage and home and family and the way that we know that our forefathers intended us to live, your congressman in Washington, in the middle of a swamp, regardless of what the polls say, will vote the way that you expect him to vote. And I promise you this, I will not let you down. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you so much, Rick. Our next speaker is a gentleman from Franklinton, Louisiana. His name is Austin McGee. And Austin has his own business. It's called Pittman Industries. He is proud to tell you that he's never been involved in politics at all. But he has a lot of common sense. Now, the only thing I want to ask Austin is this. You know, my people are from around Franklinton, too. I'm kin to the McGees and the Pittmans. So I'm just wondering, are you part of the wealthy McGees? Well, we're probably kin then. So Austin McGee, welcome.
Thank y'all for having me. Thanks to the cafe for having us. Thanks to Secretary Landry for speaking. Thank you, Mr. Woody. Really enjoyed that by you, sir. I appreciate it feels like I'm in church when I hear you speak. So I enjoyed that. I'm me. It was my first time last night actually holding the microphone, so I'm still getting used to that. If I'm not holding that right, y'all just let me know. I went a little over last night too, so I'll try to keep it short and simple. I'm Austin. I come from simple origins. My dad manages a feed store. My mom was a school teacher. I talk like a redneck, but I'm well read. I did go to college. I got a bachelor's degree at Southeastern. I've lived and worked in District 5 my whole life. Worked all over the district. My business works all throughout the state. Really proud of my business, proud of my guys. I got them working right now on a project that, thank the Lord for good health, because I don't even have to be there. I know they're going to take care of it and it's going to get done and allow me to do something crazy like this. So I really appreciate them. I'm a Christian and conservative. I'm conservative on all your normal standpoints. You know, I'm very pro-Second Amendment. I'm very pro-life. When I got those endorsement letters from them, I checked all the boxes and sent them off, so we'll see how that goes. But I check all those boxes. But like I was saying yesterday, you know, running on the Republican ticket, somebody talking about they're pro-gun or they're pro-life or they're, you know, fiscally conservative or Christian or whatever, that's kind of like going to trying to find a mechanic to hire, and they're all telling you, they're bragging that they have a socket set, and you're trying to decide which mechanic to hire. We need to talk about more than that, and I did appreciate just now hearing a little more detail on what you're working on in the legislature right now and what you can do for us in the U.S. House. And that's what I'll be doing. I'll be going after the hard issues, because I earn about $1,000 a week. I'm not a rich person. I'm not wealthy. I don't have millions of dollars backing me. I'm not taking any lobbyist money. I'm taking small donations. You can find me at austinmcgeeforcongress.com.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
And I appreciate anything I get. So far, most of my donations have been around $20, $30, $100. And it's been good enough for me to keep some signs going and keep stuff coming out. You can find me, you can look me up on, you know, TikTok, X, Facebook. You can find me, and I talk about some things, going more depth on things. But I want to get the money out of politics. Want to have term limits for sure. I think that's the two biggest things to get the problems we have in Washington under control. We need term limits, extreme financial visibility, and we've got to do away with the excessive lobbying. It's gotten out of control, and I feel like most of these politicians are really representing their lobbyists and not the American people. Got any questions?
We're going to do questions at the end.
Okay, I got you.
Thank you very much. Austin McGee from Rrnl. And finally, we have Mike Eccles. Mike is a state representative from the Monroe area, elected, I think, in 2019. He's actually had quite an influence in the House. Today, he is the Republican chairman of the delegation in the House of Representatives. He's a businessman, successful in contracting and other things, and a real force in the House of Representatives. And I think you have a radio show too, don't you, Mike? He's also in the media, so he's wearing a couple of hats here. But we're just delighted to have with us today Mike Eccles, state representative, to talk about his candidacy in the 5th Congressional District. Mike.
Y'all, Woody is worried. The last time we were in the same room together, we were doing a Lane Grigsby roast. And my rule is, if you're in the room, you're on the menu. And unfortunately, you know, Woody, with his success and history in the Republican Party, he was on the menu, and he was a very kind, blunt of my jokes. So thank you for taking all my pain and suffering that night. Honestly, I'm a little worried with Scott and what he's talking about today. I don't know if I'm the Powerball winner or the recipient of a bullet to the head, but I can assure you I'm going to work hard and stay out of your way, sir.
Nancy's office has already answered my question.
Okay, I feel better now. I just hope I'm safe. Well, as Woody suggested, I am a builder. I am a fixer. I've been working for the last 20 plus years in real estate and development. I've developed a hotel in North Louisiana, lots of apartments, lots of big buildings, but mostly what I've tried to do in my professional career is fix things. When you have downtowns that are blighted in a wasteland, my job is to get out and fix stuff. And I'm not here to tell you that I'm running for this office in CD5 because I'm gonna do something. If you look at my term in office as a city councilman for several years, as a legislator now for 6 years, I have constantly worked to fix things. I don't have to make campaign speeches or rhetoric. Folks, I've had action. For 30 years, action in North Louisiana, building, restoring, and fixing. Fixing the blight of past governments. Fixing the problems of past attention to making our cities what they should be, which is the heart and soul of business, economic development, and culture. Folks, I have fought as well. I know we talk a lot about fighting. In the legislature, I've really focused a lot because I'm on the Health and Welfare Committee, the Ways and Means Committee, which is actually where you get all your infrastructure dollars, as well as the Labor Committee. And Health and Welfare, and I see Ms. Christie over here, we fought for years to fight the tyrannical left that came and tried to take away our life, our liberty, and our pursuit of happiness, forcing vaccines on me and you. We fought that. I ran bill after bill after bill to stop the chaos. Being on that committee, I was on the front lines of the battle of the day. And that was big government trying to steal your freedoms. And we had some wins along the way. But in many cases, our governor at the time and some left leaners stopped us along the way. But we never stopped fighting. And we'll continue to do that. I'm running for this race for a couple of different reasons. Everybody wants to know the why. As I am in North Louisiana, Central Louisiana, along the tip of the boot, if you will, from Washington Parish to Morehouse Parish. This is a very unusual district. But what I have found in going from community to community, meeting with mayors, police jurors, business people in each one of these communities, we all have some very similar wants and needs. Some of the things we're working on in the Louisiana legislature, and I've co-authored or authored bills to help lower your auto insurance. But we got more to do there. We're not done. We know that's everybody's number one concern. But if I'm in East Baton Rouge, the second concern is crime. Crime here is out of control. Now, I had a very good visit with the DA Hiller Moore and just to try to understand some of the challenges that East Baton Rouge faces. And it's, one, not having enough attorneys. Two, not having enough people to go out and tackle the problem that keeps stacking up. Gun violence, numerous other things in that space. But one of the key components when I was talking to him that he wanted a solution for a fixer is we need a resource that ties in all the regional parishes, help us identify where gun violence is happening, and then we can concentrate on it through technology and manpower. And my job, I know, when I go to Washington, D.C., is to bring him back the resources through their criminal defense funds and grants that they've got to help solve that problem. One, a solution. We've identified the problem. I've been robbed in Baton Rouge. My house has been burglarized. I've seen it firsthand. I know what it feels like to have those freedoms taken away. Much like the previous governor tried to take away our freedoms. But folks, I can tell you, my job in this role is to fix things. And crime is one of those big things. Now, infrastructure. I've got a great bill. Everybody loves President Trump, right? I've been to Mar-a-Lago before. I've seen the beautiful places he's built. I've been to different Trump hotels and seen the developments he's done. I try to model some of my projects so they look and feel prestigious, much like the work he's done. But bigger than that, he's a builder. And builders understand builders. And we got a big problem in Baton Rouge. Golf traffic. You try to go across that bridge, it's a mess. I walk under that bridge every morning at 5:30, and I look at those lights stop one by one by one. Nobody's moving. At 5 and 5:30 in the morning, that bridge is backed up. Today, I authored a bill in the House Transportation Committee that would take and name the next bridge that we're going to build, the Donald J. Trump Expressway. Now, my liberal left friends went crazy. They lit their hair on fire and said, "What are you doing? We don't like him." Some of my friends on the right said, "Why would you do that?" The only way you get big deals done in this state and with Washington, D.C. is to get the people that are in control of the purse strings attention. Folks, we're getting their attention. Speaker Mike Johnson sent it to the White House immediately when we filed the bill. They said they're going to love this idea and this concept. We need $3 billion to fix that bridge. $3 billion. And that's today. And how are we going to do it without tolling? We got to get creative. We need somebody that understands how to creatively finance projects. Much like our president, much like a builder. I assure you, my number one priority when we go to Washington, D.C. for East Baton Rouge Parish and the parishes surrounding us is to fix our roads, to fix our bridges, and to fix our basic infrastructure. I, like many of you, were impacted by the floods of 2016. In fact, I was elected as city councilman the Saturday night before the floods started in North Louisiana. 2 days later, I was neck deep in water, going infrastructure to infrastructure to show people where our problems were and what I had to fix along the way. And folks, the next 3 years, we invested tens of millions of dollars and fixed stuff in my market when I was a city councilman. Again, a fixer and a builder. Now, there's more to just this race than infrastructure. There's more to this race than crime. I think you need to send a person that understands business to Washington, D.C., because I understand the issues that will grow this economy for the next 20 years. It is our job to go to D.C. to work on broad solutions for America, but to bring back the resources we need in Louisiana to get the job done. Now, I know this RPEC wouldn't have made their decision before we walked in the door today, because none of you have met me before. Not many of you. I know several of you because you come down and fight with me in the legislature to fix stuff, and I love that. But I wanted you to get to know me in a little bit different way. Not only am I a builder and a fixer and a fighter in the legislature, and I've done that for years, and we can all say what we're going to do. All I ask you to judge as you go forward and make your decisions on this race and this election is those that have done it already, that have shown the way, that have built stuff, that have fixed stuff, and then you know my campaign promises are more than promises. I will make them a reality as we go. I would encourage you to go to my website if you'd like more information about me. My cards are on the table. I'm a father of 2 little girls, 11 and 14. My wife is an architect. We work and develop together. We build beautiful things, both for folks that need affordable housing to market rate, whether it's commercial buildings one by one, restoring them one at a time. Folks, we've done it. I've got the scars to prove it. I may look like some fancy schmancy businessman in a fancy suit, but I've got the plumbing scars, the electrical scars, the shocks, the things that a real business person has done. I put my sweat equity into every business that I've got. And I built them from something really small to something really big. I think your next congressman needs to do and have experienced those things. Because if they're going to work to fight for you, they have to have a track record of doing it, not only as a politician, but as a business person. It's been an honor to be with you today. I had a better roast speech prepared for Woody, and I was ready to give it. But I can tell this crowd you wanted to know who I was and what I was about. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
We're going to bring up
Oh, everybody's coming. All right.
Yeah, hold on. Can I ask a question?
Well, we did everybody come up.
Everybody's coming up.
So we have Austin. Who else is here?
Oh, one last thing.
So,
I actually live and work in the district. just as one point of fact, because I know this group wants to know, I don't have to drive 200 miles to get in this congressional district. I actually live here, and I have for decades. And I also have a house in Baton Rouge, too. So I have houses in Monroe and Baton Rouge, and I go back and forth.
Since they're not coming right quick enough, look, you say you're a fixer in a Republican House in the Senate with the governor. Why can't we fix this illegal EVD district around LSU? And I know you can't do it because you're running for office. But please talk to these guys in the legislature, because it's wrong to have no residents, no voters, but you have money, and then LSU is taking that money, $161 million that we found that was going to a private contractor. And that the Attorney General has this case right now. And this is very serious. It's nothing.
Sure.
It's a very serious issue when your government, your legislature, create the law, would allow something like this to happen, and you can all easily fix it. And I'm talking to some of the legislators.
Well, I've got to talk to Tyler later about the stories they've written to understand more about that issue. But I'm definitely happy to look into it and determine what they're working on. That's
Are they working on it?
No, the controversy of the issue. I've got to find out more about it and understand what the issue is. I've heard about them building some new facilities, and
a private contractor. The
Oh, I
money
saw
going
that.
to private contractor.
That's right.
Now, this,
So, Daryl, we really need to bring up all the
okay,
candidates.
but what I'm saying is, they don't have to talk about it too much in this session, because they're gonna be talking about it to the voters next year when they run for office.
Is Rick still here or did he go?
Rick left.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna have.
They didn't pass the plate, Woody, so he left. I was raised a Baptist, but I'm married now and a Catholic, so I can say that. I've had my stripes in baptism.
All right, so now we have the two remaining candidates up, and we're going to ask questions, and each candidate will get to answer whatever question is asked. All right, so we'll give them just, take 30 seconds or a minute. I do want to start with myself asking a question of both of you. We have a problem here regarding infrastructure. We passed a bond issue a few years ago, I guess it was 2018, called MOVE EBR. And that funded widening of Airline Highway from the old bridge to I-12. It's already paid for. But the governor is now blocking us from building that widening that's already paid for and wants a toll road, which would cost over $1 billion, to go from the old Mississippi River Bridge to I-12. I don't think any of us here understand that. We passed resolutions about this, but we want to build what's already paid for, the widening of Airline Highway. So if you have any comments on that, we'd like to know your response.
I think it's very, take my
Yeah, I definitely think that's very necessary. I think widening the airline would do good too. It jams up pretty bad as well. I know, like you talked about, how bad it comes to a halt at 5:30. If you go through 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, you don't have that problem. But I have one plant in Ticketer and Baton Rouge. I know every single time we're there, if we're getting off around 4 o'clock, we just don't. We find something else to work on, and we continue to work until at least 7, and then we leave, because it's just going to make our drive home Frankfurt so much smoother. But I think widening the airline would be good as well as far as the particular route we need to go. I don't know the specifics on it. I haven't familiarized myself well enough with the actual logistics of it and the numbers, but I do think that's an interesting question.
So I have a different approach when it comes to financing projects, and that's actually, from a tolling standpoint, I'm not a fan of tolls, but I am a fan of using economic growth around when you do an economic expansion through roads and bridges. There's intrinsic value either through sales tax tips. We do it right now with enterprise funds at the state government, that as tax collections in those areas that receive that new infrastructure grow, that money is then dedicated to pay off bond indebtedness. They don't only do that for sales tax tips, they do it on property tax tips as well. These are just common sense ideas that we ought to be considering, so average Americans or average Louisianians don't have to foot the bill every time they drive down a highway, especially, as Woody pointed out, if it's already been paid for.
Questions? Who has questions?
What hasn't been paid for?
Well, we've been paying tax.
We still have some sales tax.
We've been paying since
We have
2019.
been paying since 2019.
It's a great point.
All right, I want to express where I'm coming from with this, and turn it into a question, but it's a thought, and I'd like y'all both to, comment on it. You talk about the bridge, and I love it, okay? I live in West Bank. I had a heart attack not long ago, and if it would have been on any weekday, in the afternoon or evening or something like that, I'd be dead. Thank God it was on a Sunday with no traffic. But for 30 years, my children now, they're in their mid-30s, and they've been even hearing about it on the radio and everything while we were commuting back and forth to school and things like this, and sitting in that traffic for 2 hours a day, every day, while they were going to school. Now, you got this thing called carbon capture sequestration, and nobody wants that. They redefined it as a common good, and we all know that the bridge is a common good. And I heard Clay Higgins talk about it on his town hall, that they don't have enough votes to get rid of this Q45 tax credit. Here's what I'm thinking. you give oil and gas something similar to a Q45 tax credit to build a bridge here that they benefit from because more people use oil and gas to travel. We get a bridge and not have the hocus pocus going in under the ground threatening our aquifers. What is your comments on that?
So there's a bunch of topics you came out there with. I'm going to start with, I'm glad you didn't have a heart attack when traffic was going. That's one. I'm with you on that. I also think that the Q45 tax credits are not a good credit. They don't do anything. They were part of the New Green scam. So I'm not a fan of that type of gimmick. I am a fan, though, of products and incentives from, whether it's a state or federal incentive, and it gets you to do something like build a bridge. That's why I named the bridge the Donald J. Trump Expressway, because I think it's an incentive to get the thing done. The man likes to name on stuff. Let's put it on there and let's get it built. So that's one thing, all right? So you brought up something, though, about carbon sequestration. Again, I'm not a fan of it. I think we need to write a vibrant rule set over it. However, while East Baton Rouge or Livingston Parish or Lake Maurepas or anywhere else around here may not be in favor of that, there is a multi-billion-dollar project in Caldwell Parish, and they are in favor of it. And while those silly credits still sit out there, I don't want to lose a $2 billion airplane diesel manufacturing plant that's going to grow tens of thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in investment. I'm not going to take that off their table because they want it. So I think this role is about a balance. It's figuring out parish by parish what people want. While Baton Rouge and East Baton Rouge may have a crime problem and infrastructure problem, that may not be the case for West Feliciana. They may have a water issue, or they may have something that they need additional housing, or everybody's got a little bit different set of issues. And one of the things I would ask for you as you talk to candidates that are looking at this seat, have they been to all 21 parishes? I can almost spell every one of them. And I can almost name them all off really quick. But I've been to every one of those parishes. And whether you're in the small parish of Morehouse or East or West Carroll or East or West Feliciana or anywhere in between, everybody's got different needs. And the politician you elect needs to be able to go parish by parish and understand what those needs are.
Let's go to the next question.
I'd like to answer that one if I can.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Because I'm very opposed to the carbon capture and sequestration. I think that's horrible. I drink well water. All my family drinks well water. I'm proud of it. I brag about it. When I go out of town, I want people, or bring people in from other town, I want them to taste my well water because it's delicious. It's better than coming out of the Kentwood jug. I love it. I don't want anything to ever threaten it or anybody else's. I don't like eminent domain. I would have never voted on anything that would have benefited that. I believe it's 45Q, not Q45. I believe it's 45Q. But anyway, I will fight in that. There's no reason for it. Maybe we don't have enough votes, but I can beat one more. And get a good, it's one more vote towards it. And I will fight for that. But regardless, and I said it last night, carbon sequestration and capture, it's really a socialist scam if you look at it that way. It's our tax dollars to begin with. You say you're creating jobs and these parishes want jobs. What would be the difference of just handing money out? It's tax money going to a corporation that they're saving, and then you're going to give the money to them and let them provide a few jobs for it while doing something dangerous that we don't even believe in. We're going to try to smuggle a percentage of high-pressure liquid CO2 underground, pump it underground to keep the sea level from rising another half inch. It's ridiculous. And I don't agree with it at all. To me, it's socialism with extra steps. It's ignorant, it doesn't make any sense, and it needs to stop. I don't agree with any of it, and I mean, our current representative loves it, and her fiance is a lobbyist for one of the firms that's going to do this. And to me, that is, I heard her last night talk about why would anybody, people tell her, why do you want to go be part of that swamp? That is the swamp. If you're literally about to marry somebody that's a lobbyist and you're a representative running for Senate, and to me, that's just insane. And it gets me riled up. I'm sorry. I get mad, but I don't like the carbon sequestration at all. And I will be one more vote, even if we don't have enough. I'm going to fight as hard as I can and push the issue to end that 45Q tax credit because it's ridiculous. And I think that money, that same tax credit, could be used for a lot of good things.
Question. Austin has a question.
Austin has the best line I've ever seen on his website. I can do worse than the rest of them.
It's true. Well, thank you both.
Well, I was eating something. This is off the records and things like that, but we have a problem, it seems like in our state prisons, where people seem to be dying rapidly every time they go in there. They don't go in there for murder, though maybe we should put them in there and go with them to do that. But it shouldn't be too hard to fix bringing contraband into a state prison. What is the problem? And if you can talk to the governor and say, almost anybody in this room could fix that problem real fast. Why can't we?
I really have not studied on the issue. I didn't realize it was a rise of that, but I will definitely look into it. And if I see you again, you ask me again, I'll have an answer. That's all. I just have to tell you, you caught me with my pants down on that one. I didn't realize it was such an issue, but I'll look into it.
So, no job training on day one here. I was actually visiting prisons down in Washington Parish all the way up, and I visited most of them over the last number of years. In fact, most recently in Washita Parish, we have a new youth facility there that is far more preventative from what you're talking about, the ability to get contraband in. Now, you ask a broad question there. If you visit any of these prisons around the state, we have payment disparities. Unfortunately, because of ICE detainees and private facilities moving to that because it was more profitable, we've shifted away from the state-owned or locally managed and run facilities. They get lower reimbursement for housing their inmates. And the problem is with that, they haven't been able to do the deferred maintenance and everything else they need to do. We have tens of millions of dollars in backlog. We are investing in that right now. It's part of the governor's priority program. We're working with the Criminal Justice Committee and my committee, the Ways and Means Committee, to make substantial investment to enhance those facilities. Another big problem that if you actually knew and talked to the sheriffs and the people that manage these facilities, they have a personnel issue. Because of what happened in COVID and the chaos, we lost so many good people. So we've got to find experienced men and women that we can pay fairly to manage those facilities in the non-profit facilities that have low reimbursement. So we got a payment problem, that's part of the issue. We got an infrastructure problem, that's part of the issue. We're going to fix some of the infrastructure problem with investments through our capital outlay process and the other budget.
All right, Mike, if you would take 1 minute to close, and then Austin will get you to take it.
Yeah, folks, I would just implore you to go to my website. If you want more information about me, it's michaelechols.com. If you have a question for me, my cell phone number is 318-366-7370. I have hosted a talk radio show for 24 years. I've talked to thought leaders and education leaders and business leaders and political leaders, everybody over the last 24 years, and I've taken that knowledge to get me where I'm at today. I am a fixer. I'm also a fighter. And if you send me to Washington, D.C., I will fight to fix the infrastructure issues in East Baton Rouge and every other parish around us that I would represent. I will work to find solutions for your DAs and those in law enforcement to bring resources back to catch criminals and put them away. And of course, as a business guy, nobody will lead the charge faster to continue to lower your taxes at the federal level and make policies and regulations less intrusive to grow businesses, jobs, and hope and opportunity. Thank you. It's been a great pleasure to be with you today. And I ask for your vote.
Thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. As well, if y'all send me to Washington, D.C., I'll be fighting for the average person. And most importantly, I'll be sending a signal to all these politicians, because what we need 400 more or so people like me, regular people, to stand up and do this. It'll be sending a message that you don't need millions of dollars to do this, and we can have a voice. The ordinary person can have a voice in Washington with common sense and ordinary values that ordinary people have. Thank y'all.
Thank you very much to Secretary of State Nancy Landry. Our candidates, all of you, please join us next month for the Ronald Reagan Newsmaker Luncheon, always on the second Tuesday. The Chamber of Commerce of East Baton Rouge on the fourth Tuesday. And we will probably have a special meeting of the Reagan Luncheon soon, because we're trying to get all of the Senate candidates in the same place at the same time, and that's not easy. So thank you all very much, and until next month.